Hey folks, welcome back. So let's go ahead and start setting up our cameras. As we setting up our cameras, there is a good possibility that we have to change our different plane effectors and their behavior and functionality and their keys and animation and stuff like that, just to get the look much more better. So let me go get started, and let me create a simple camera. This is gonna be our first camera. Everybody has its own approach and workflow when the time comes to setting up our cameras. Mine is I create my cameras, sequentially. So I create my first camera for example, frame 0 to 50. Then I create the second camera, for example, frame 40 to 70, and this is the way it's gonna be there, and I'm gonna name them based on the frame that they are representing. So let's go to our first camera. This is gonna be our first camera, and with this camera I wanna sort of this camera is dedicated to our first movement and first burst, which let's just setting up our scene. What I'm going to do is to go to this main cloner setup, and instead of going this changing the detail of our scene up from here, what I can do, because most of the time I want to make sure that the level of detail of this main cloner is not that much, so we can have a snappy viewport. Let's simply right click on this Cinema 4D tags, and you have these display tags. Down here you can enable the level of detail and change the level of detail based on percentage here instead of going up there, and it is specific to this cloner. And also you can use the textures, and if I change this to something like quick shading, for example, or quick shading lines, it's okay. Now we can simply, if you want, change this level of detail, for example, to something like 20% if the time needs to be. Let's go something like 50% for the moment and go setting up our cameras. And let's just make sure we can see our. Now let's go to this constant shading lines. Looks like the best thing for the moment. So let's go ahead and set up our first camera. Let's go into our camera and start setting it up. The first thing I wanna for this first to camera, I want to go to a really super wide angle, something like 15, 12 even. So let's just change this focal length to something like 15. So now we have a really super wide lens. And now let's just set up our cameras. I'm just going to trying to create some sort of really weird angles. Always try to do that in order to have some nice motion, and really people appreciate those weird and wide angles, especially when time comes to motion graphics. And let me go to its coordinates and start rotating this camera. Let's see what we can get here, and let's see if we can get back a bit, Alt and right click, just to make sure we have as much as we can in our in our view. Something like this for me isn't too bad. And if I hit play, okay, so it's not too bad. Definitely frame 32. I think we are gonna need to go to something about frame 60 would be enough. 60 or yeah, 60 is quite good. Let's just have a quick render and see how our camera looks. I'm just going to this texture tag and just disable this. So just let's now take a quick render, and as always I stop my recording as I render. And I think we have a very nice weird angle. The lens is very nice, and we can call this camera our first camera. And the way I do this is really simply, let's camera 1, and the frames are 0 to 60. So this is our first camera, and I saw a problem. I'm not sure if you noticed it or not, but let's go back to our default camera. Actually, just let me add this default camera to my layout, so it's really useful to have it here. So let's go to somewhere, I think here, or I'm not sure really. Let's go to here maybe. Okay. Now let's get back to our default camera really quickly. I saw one of the clones from this layer. As you can see, what is this thing that really snipping through? This is definitely from this layer, and let's see which one is this one. Okay, let me find out what this is from and just come back to you quickly. Okay, so let's see what's the problem here. I think this problem should be from one of these effectors. Let's just disable all of them and see what basically caused that. Yeah, our first plane vector looks like we need to adjust its keyframes a bit, so let's just go to that first keyframe, and I'm just going to my layers, and let's enable the effectors and see which one is what we want to change here. I think this is the one, isn't it? If I move it in z-axis a bit, there we go. That solved our problem actually. So okay, that's great. Let's just enable them again. Now let's this is our first camera, and I think we are good to continue. The next thing I want to set up is my second camera, and let's actually get back to our layers and just hide our effectors so we don't clutter up our scene. For the second camera, let's go to this main cloner first, and let's just make sure that the level of detail is so low. Let's go something like 20, so we have a snappy viewport. Let me get back to my default camera, and let's just go to where our sort of second cloner comes into play. As you can see, about frame 120, 124. Okay, so let's create a new camera. Let's go into that camera. Again, for that camera, I'm really going to go really wide, something like 12. And let's get closer to these guys. That's where they start. I want to sort of like 120, maybe 5 here. Let's go to coordinates and try to rotate it and see how this is gonna look. Not that much. Let's go to something like this. And now they comes into play. Let's go to about 100 frame. 225. F1 frame backward. And now let's just holding down Alt and right click, get back just down a bit and a bit more up. Go to something like this. And I think we forgot to actually animate our camera at frame 125. So let's set a keyframe for our camera so we don't lose that first position. So I'm just going to my camera and set a keyframe for the position and rotation. Make sure to disable the scale, and let's go to frame about 225. Okay, G1 frame forward, and let's Alt right click and heading back and see what we want to do. Let's set another keyframe. I'm going to head back to this frame and let's see. Now you have this motion. I think we can go a bit, maybe to something like 240. Let's select this keyframe and change the key time to something like 240 and see where we are right now. Hit play. So they comes into place. Let's go to the frame 240, go to the camera. I'm thinking of changing it this way this time, just a few degrees, and let's just go a bit higher and set the keyframe again. And let's see, we have just getting too close here for my eyes. Let me just go a bit higher position, something maybe like this, and set the keyframe again. I just think this is too close. Set the keyframe. Sorry, it looks like we're in the wrong frame again. Let's go make sure to be in frame 240 and okay, let's go to this first frame and let's change the volume maybe to something like positive 11. And now the main problem for me, I really wanna, let's go to C. Okay, this is not too bad. The only thing is you can see this very wide open space here that we really need to take care of, and I think we can adjust our first plane effector and get a much more better result. Let me just go to my layers and unhide my effectors, and let's go to our first plane effector. And what I'm going to do is this first plane effector, let's see, so 251 is its second keyframe, and what I'm going to do is change the let's go to somewhere maybe here and set the keyframe on X, and hopefully, yeah, it's much more better. As you can see now how that keyframe works. Let's just hit play and see what we have here. So this camera could stand to frame 240, so let's just change our timeline to 125 240, and I can simply get back and see how it works. Okay, it's not too bad, especially it's not in real time. It will be much more quicker, and we can speed it up if we want. And now motion wise, I think I'm going to keep this gradual speeding up of our camera and slowing down at the end. Even though we can, if we want, right click and go to the F curve of this camera and work with this curves a bit. Let's just go to our F curve and change, turn off this show all tracks so you can work based on the tracks. Let me save my scene here. Actually, so if we need to get back to this point, but so let's see, it's gradually start to move and finally has a bit more of speed, maybe something like this. So this is kind of can help the motion. Select the 2-point heat H, so gradually and finally has more speed. Let's just do that for all of our axes. And for the rotations, even though it doesn't matter that much, and if we can actually adjust the rotation and the position values, that will definitely gives us much more better motion. And okay, and let's see now what we got here. Okay, very nice. I think it's okay, and I really I can give you the freedom, so you can do whatever you want with this camera and change the angle the way you want it to. But let's name this our camera 2, and the frames are 125 to 240. Okay, and I think I'm going to save my scene, and in the next lesson we are going to set up our the rest of our cameras.